Hi lovelies, Paula here. I wanted to take a minute to bring up something that I was talking about with a client today. Um, I had just finished her first treatment and I was going over some self-care ideas, things that she can do at home to keep up her progress in between sessions. And so I give all newcomers to Lovely Day who receive myofascial release a little welcome bag, and it has some brochures and things in there, and then it's got these two self-treatment balls. And I was explaining to her John Barnes' approach to myofascial release and letting her know that the fascia responds best to slow, intentional releases, because there's a soft ball and then there's a harder ball, and a lot of people want to jump straight to the harder ball and they want to really put it up against the wall and grind out their knots, or dig into the restrictions in their feet, and that's just not as effective as really taking your time. In John Barnes' approach to myofascial release, we're really just meeting the restrictions where they're at. So you find an area of your body that's tight, sore, needs to be released, and you can take the ball. I usually recommend using the soft ball first, unless it's like a small area like your hand or your foot or something like that. Then you can use the smaller, harder ball. It's like a racket ball. But the 4-inch, softer, like bouncy ball, I usually give to people. And for example, she had a restriction in her hamstring. So we had done a full treatment, and at the end of session, her hamstring was pretty slow to release. We got it about halfway there, but I was like, you could really keep this up at home and continue treating this hamstring before I see you again, and then we'll pick up the pace from where we left off. And so, but yeah, I was like, don't dig it in, just, meet it where it's at. As soon as you start to feel a little bit of pushback, that's far enough. You hang out for 3 to 5 minutes or longer, allowing the fascial system to respond slowly, releasing layer by layer, so you can actually have effective body work that's going to last, instead of just taking the hard ball or something, and digging around in there. Fascia it's like a non-Newtonian fluid. So if you remember oobleck from school, this is a really good analogy. Basically, it's a crystalline matrix, right? So there's a lot of liquid there, and similar to oobleck in school, like if you come in too hot and hard, it's going to resist you. It's going to feel like a solid. But if you slowly put your fingers in, it's actually a liquid. So fascia is similar in this way. Like if we're digging in and we're being too rough, your system's just it's gonna resist you, and then you're at risk of creating a lot of inflammation that's not really necessary, and you're not even getting rid of the restriction you were trying to get rid of. So slow and steady wins the race. But with that being said, there's a lot of different techniques out there. She was like, that's really interesting that you bring this up, because she's like, I've received myofascial release from other practitioners before, and she's like, I felt like it was just that. It was like hard and it was rough and left me feeling really sore and inflamed for days afterward. But she did feel like she got some relief, maybe not as much relief as what she's receiving with the John Barnes method. But I just kind of wanted to touch on that for a second. Of course, we're all going to have our different opinions on things, but when it comes to the research I've done thus far, as well as the anecdotal results that I've viewed from clients, over the last few years providing this work, there's a lot of talk about different ways to rehydrate the fascial system, right? There's methods where you could say, I'm just going to use my hand for an example. Let's say you have a treatment ball. You can press, hold, release. Press, hold, release. And the idea is that you're pushing so that you're removing fluid from the area, or like putting pressure to build it up, right? And then you release, and then all the fluid rushes in, and it's supposed to hydrate the fascial system. And I do believe that to a degree it does. There is some science backing this. The thing is, it can be helpful for restrictions that maybe haven't been there that long, or aren't that collagenous or that thick. In my own experience in doing different forms of self-treatment at home, I find this only partially helpful. for certain areas of the body. And same with a more mobilization approach, where say we're taking a foam roller and we're rolling the IT band or something like this. So, I mean, to a degree, the fascial system in that area will get rehydrated. But if I've got like a really tight, thick restriction that's been there for a really long time, that's just going to irritate it. Any sort of myofascial work that we do has the potential to create inflammation because we're trying to bring fluid to the area, right? And that's what inflammation effectively does. However, fascia is made up of collagen, elastin, and the fluid ground substance. So over time, with repetitive motion or scar tissue or whatever it is that caused this restriction in the first place, if it's been there for a long time, or God forbid it is like a scar or something like this, odds are it's pretty thick and collagenous. And so if you're just like pressing and releasing or trying to grind it out, I mean, remember what we talked about before about this non-Newtonian fluid. If you're not coming in slowly, it's just going to resist you. So, we have these little superficial cross-links of collagen that build day by day, and you can break up some of that with grinding it out with a foam roller or something like this. But if you want to go deep and you want to get restrictions that are causing chronic pain, stiffness, and tension, then you're going to want to go in low and slow. So that's my opinion. I would love to hear some constructive criticism or feedback. I mean, shoot, let's start a conversation. This is just, like I said, this has been my research and my experience, not just with myself, but with my clients as well. So I know it was kind of a long chat, but thanks for listening.